Welcome back, Internet. You ready to hear what I think I know? I'm ready to tell you, I suppose. Let's get started. Let me move that there. Uh, I did some chair repair to repair my chair. I don't know if you remember, but a bolt fell out yesterday, or last episode, and then today another bolt fell out. So I just tightened everything up. Anyway, I would like to remind you, I may have not said this last show, but this goes for all my shows. Everything here is satire and the points don't matter. But getting into it, we have talked a little bit about starting next Wednesday a twice a week kind of thing. Unfortunately, I may have taken another job, sort of. Just helping some people out. I'm pretty much giving the rest of my free time until July 29th, uh, which means I'm going to probably have to push that show. I might be able to do like sort of build out the show through those like 5 weeks and then uh, air on the 30th. But I might also just have to wait till the week after that, the first week in August. We'll see. Who knows? These shows do take a little while. They take a few hours to prepare, record, and then edit. So we'll see what I can do. If I can, I'm giving it to you. If I can't, I apologize. You'll have to wait another week. Anyway, getting right into it, we're going to start out with a super fun fact. And today's one of my favorite types of fun facts. I was punished a lot as a child, predominantly in school or whatever. I was a loud guy. I was always the loudest voice in class, so I was always getting the punishment. I was the island seat. My table would be in the corner of the room or whatever. I'd be my own island always. Sometimes outside the room. That happened a lot. But one of my big punishments was copying pages out of the dictionary. And that taught me a weird amount about the English language. And now I kind of love it. It makes a lot of sense to me. Every word and every part of each word has its own sort of control over what it means. And today's fun fact has to do with the word braggadocious. I believe I used that word last week, so if you kind of caught on to that, whatever, figured that out, don't spoil it for us. But braggadocious is a very fun word. I do have another one of these words for next week, but we'll get to that next week. So this week's word, braggadocious, is the actual definition of it is to be boastful or arrogant. I do find myself being a little braggadocious from here and there to there. But anyway, we can all do that. So what's fun about that word is what we can make with it. So I just happened to hear the other day, I was watching a video of Jay Leno and James May go around Jay Leno's garage and just whatever, talking about cars here and there. And he mentioned one car in particular, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's this and that and whatever. I don't tell people that much. I don't like to be braggadocio." And it clicked. I went, "Oh my gosh, braggadocious would be the full." We've got some breaking down to do. So if braggadocious means boastful or arrogant, we're looking for words that are sort of along those lines. So with braggadocious, I think you already know where I'm going. The beginning of that word, brag, to brag, is to be boastful. And the end of that word, sorry, future self, I'm going to have to do a little bit of bleeping on this one. I'll say it right here so I can kind of leave both ends in so you know what's in the middle if you get my drift. But do bag, and that will be bleeped, of course. But that's the word we're working with. So we've got bragging and douchebaggery in the same word, braggadocious. You've got your bragging up front, your boastfulness, and you've got your douchebaggery, your arrogance on the other side. Just a really fun kind of look into the English language, I guess. And while this one might not be super like useful in everyday life, it's good to know. So if anybody ever says, "Oh, you just said a bad word," you said, and you could say, "No, no, I just said the shortened version of braggadocious. Would you prefer me use that many syllables instead of just one?" Braggadocious, or easy. Uh, you could call him a bragger, I guess, but that doesn't have the same power. So anyway, there's your super fun fact of the day. We get both the word bragging and douchebag, both from braggadocious. Just a little bit of fun for you. And the next segment here, we have our theory of the day. Today's theory is about whales breaching and landing on ships. It's kind of seems to have become commonplace. It clearly has been happening since, I should have looked this up. Whenever Moby Dick was written, um, I I know some weird facts about that one. Uh, Maybe I'll have to use that in an update. I should have. I wish I remembered that I knew some weird facts about that one. I believe, yes, that's what it was. The original name was Mocha Dick, which, you know, that's pretty funny. A bunch of white guys scared of a Mocha Dick. I'd be scared too. I'll tell you that. Although I'm Italian, so no worries. That's probably getting edited out. Anywho, so my theory skipped over the theory itself. So the whole theory is kind of that Pacific garbage patch. My thinking is that whales are getting so used to breaching and landing on clumps of trash that look solid and similar size to a boat. I'm thinking if it's, you know, a 10 by 10 square of trash that's all clumped up and kind of floating. I'd assume there's a garbage patch, and then there's going to be, you know, dots of garbage on the outside of it. That's just how physics works with things like that in water. Um, the attraction on the surface layer, surface tension there, will, when those groups get close together, grab them and kind of pull them in. But then a wave could come through, and right at the crest of the wave, a bit could fall on the back, a bit could get pushed on the front, and now we have a separation there. Um, so that's kind of how the physics behind that garbage patch would work. So I'm thinking there would be enough like 10 by 10 patches of garbage where whales would come up from below, breach, and land. And obviously, when they're breaching, well, there's many different reasons why they would breach. I believe with like humpback whales, it's a mating thing. Um, we know dolphins is like for fun and whatnot. But we also know like killer whales, great white sharks, and then most fish eating whales, they also breach to feed. And that's, you know, kind of ignoring the great white sharks, at least for the moment. They pretty much only do that in South Africa. I do have a buddy who claimed to have seen one breach in Monterey Bay. Um, I don't know if that's true. I would not be surprised. We're not that far from Africa for a shark that big. So it's possible that he learned it there and came back over here or whatever. But regardless, fish jump to feed, or whales jump to feed. So that's kind of my theory. The other half of my theory is, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this on here, but I'm going to give it a shot. The Chinese whaling ships are much bigger than the ships that they've been jumping on here in the States. So I got a light theory of the Chinese ships have scared the crap out of all the whales, and the whales are, you know, running across the Pacific here to the West Coast and jumping on ships because they're smaller. They're still pissed off that they're getting hunted, but these ships are smaller. They can hang. You know, they can handle them. fight back, if you will. So that's my theory of the day. Whales are doing one of two things. They're either confident enough from landing on trash, or they're angry at the Chinese. Either one of them is guaranteed to be fact. The other one is probably going to be pushed into conspiracy theory, but it will come out in 20 years that it was true. That is my theory of the day today. Now, those first two segments went actually kind of a little bit quicker than I thought they would. And it's all because I wanted to not have a piece to politic today. Today was supposed to all just be goofball fun. But then I thought, well, I kind of got to do an update on the piece to politic last week. Well, it spiraled. And now the piece to politic is probably the biggest section. Not probably, it's definitely the biggest section. But we're still going to try to have some fun with it. So, our piece to politic today is a third update, a third piece to politic, and a third Frank rant. Again, that's not a fellow named Frank. That's just because I'm going to be ranting, and I'm going to do it very frankly. I guess without further ado, let's just dive right in, huh? This might be a shorter episode than last week, or it'll be twice as long. We'll find out by the end. So the first thing we have on the docket today is an update on the No Kings rally. That's what we talked about last week. I said, basically be careful. I don't really think much is going to happen, but there's going to be some, violence and whatnot. The update to that is there was some violence and whatnot. It also was not as big as they were expecting. It was more the size of what we were expecting. Not terrifically large. Lots of them were canceled all across the country. There were several Capitol buildings that were stormed. There were an uncountable number of assaults on police officers and all sorts of criminal activity. Fortunately, I'm glad to see that there was actually some, I don't know if there were actual charges or just like a traffic ticket kind of thing, but there were some people getting ticketed or charged for walking in a roadway while sidewalks were available. So that's just kind of fun. Get out of the streets, man. You're hurting, not helping. Get out of the street and onto the sidewalk. That's, I think, Simpsons Hit and Run right there for the GameCube. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's all I really had as an update for that in particular. Now, I do have an update to something that's very similar to that. So while here in America, we were fighting to allow uncounted millions of people to come into our country, set up shop, and do whatever the hell they want, in Ireland, they were doing the opposite. The same thing, but for the opposite reason. Last week, I think it was like Wednesday maybe last week, there was a 14-year-old Irish girl who was attacked by two 14-year-old Romanian immigrants. I say their age kind of mostly just for information. I mean, an attack of this nature is completely unacceptable whether your ages are the same or not. They're 14 years old. Their parents have not taught them correctly. They have been raised incorrectly. At 14, you should be fully capable of understanding that the things you've done here are absolutely unacceptable in every single way. So after many years of Europe being attacked in just the same way as us with our completely wide open borders, they've stood up and they've said no. And what's really interesting is if you don't know anything about Ireland, you have, well, there's basically, there's England right over here. 1 second. Here's my little map we can use. Let's find us some England. So we have, I'm trying to orient that a little better. There we go. So we have in red, I think. I am colorblind, so I'm not entirely sure. But I believe that's red. So in red, that is England, or the British Isles, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the exact term they prefer. But in red is England. Scotland up here, Wales down here. And then this little island over here is Ireland. That red dot on Ireland is Northern Ireland. Now, that country has had some strife. We all know the song, Zombie. A beautiful, beautiful song. Give me 1 second. I'm going to hang this up and stop talking so I can edit that out. All right, back. Now that I've said Ireland so much, I almost said that Zombie was written by Kathy Ireland. Definitely not. But that song is all about the strife they've had, well, kind of since like several hundred years, basically. The Irish potato famine is kind of the first inkling we're ever told about it. The Irish potato famine, funnily enough, they did not run out of food. The English were taking all the food, and all they left behind were the potatoes. So the Irish people actually, if they were under their own control, they would have had plenty of food. There would have been no potato famine. They would have just gone a few years without eating potatoes as much, but they would have all lived. Instead, many, many hundreds of thousands, I think there was like 8 million people at the time living in Ireland. And I don't know exactly how many people died, but it was enough to be a big deal. And it was not the Irish fault. It was the English's fault for taking all their food and leaving them only with potatoes. So that strife rolls on through. In the 60s, I think it was like 65, there was a group called the Ulster Volunteer Force or Ulster Defence Force. And they were with the British government. They agreed with the whole unity between Ireland and England. They kind of wanted the assistance, basically. And then the whole rest, and that's that little red dot on Ireland. Then the whole rest of Ireland, I believe that island was green. You could rewind real quick. But the rest of Ireland said, no, we're Irish. The English can do what they do, but we're Irish. We're going to do what we want to do. And so they already had created this, but before the Ulster Defence Force, they had the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. And this was the actual Irish army, basically. It was 100% Irish citizens fighting the entire British government and everything that consisted of. Brutal war. So, cycling back to the beginning of this, the 14-year-old girl was attacked. And that was kind of the final straw. This has been going on for a long time in Ireland, several years. And so this started a riot, almost identical to what we were seeing in like LA, cars burning, all that sort of stuff. And I think it was going on for about 3 days. And then the IRA came up from Ireland. I was going to say South Ireland, but it's just Ireland. So they started moving up north into Northern Ireland, and kind of everybody got tense, like, oh boy, these two factions are going to start battling it out again. We're back into that 80s Civil War kind of time. But they pulled a Braveheart on them. The IRA and the Ulster Defence Force teamed up, and they've been beating the British back. Now, it's almost impossible to find any information on this on the internet, so I don't know if it's still going on. I don't know if the Irish succeeded. I don't know if the British pushed them back. I don't know what happened. I just think it's an incredible contrast We here in the United States have just as many attacks, it seems, on our citizens, and yet our citizens are begging for more people to come in without anything, any vetting kind of thing. So it's just a very interesting, one side, whatever. So that's what I have for updates. And then in terms of kind of local news, local-ish news, we have a little update on CARB, California Air Resource Board. They're the ones who give power to BAR, the Bureau of Automotive Repair, which is who enforces smog checks. I mentioned very quickly last week, Trump passed 3 CRAs pertaining to, oh gosh, I can't even remember. There was an omnibus, there was, one of them was cafe standards, I believe, and the other one was for semi trucks. Cafe standards are, like, take Chevy for instance. If Chevy wants to make, we'll just play with fake numbers here. If Chevy wants to make 25 Silverados, they have to make 50 Chevy Bolts, the electric cars. So basically, we're talking, if you want to sell this much heavy polluting cars, then you have to sell this much zero pollution cars. It really constrains the whole automotive industry. And it's pretty much just brought on by California. There are other people who agree with us, but California is the one pushing everything, which is a real bummer. What are you gonna do? I can't help you there. I could help you there if you ask my opinion or for advice from me. Shut it down. It's a scam entirely. I was just in LA the other day. It's as yellow as it was in the 70s. I don't know exactly why. I would assume it's because there's a desert on one side. There's a desert on one side and an ocean on the other. The wind comes off the ocean or out of the desert, and the air comes in. The Santa Ana winds, ever heard of them? Yeah, they're pretty common down there. They bring in the sand from the desert and everything turns orange. Or yellow or whatever the hell color it was. It's not the smog like it was the 70s. You used to, well, it is. It's not true. I still couldn't see very far. Basically, what I'm saying is your pollution fighting has not done anything. And this is not scientific in any way. This is just my observation. Now, the fact that preventing smog stuff, it doesn't fix anything is very true. The modern vehicle produces pretty much nothing but carbon and oxygen. I was going to say hydrogen, but no, it doesn't produce hydrogen. The carbon and oxygen, so you end up with basically just water coming out the tailpipe. The 80s were a little bit different. We were dealing with just slightly more advanced carburetors. We called it throttle body. It was basically just an electronically controlled carburetor. And then we moved into fuel injection in the 90s and the 2000s. As soon as we hit fuel injection, we're pretty much clean. We do have some little bits of NOx coming out through like '06 is kind of where it really shifted. They brought in, I'm blanking on it, but it's another kind of injection where they move the fuel injection past the valves. So you're not hitting the valves anymore. You're going directly into the engine. It's a little bit cleaner on the tailpipe, but way worse for your engine itself. Just leaves a bunch of crud behind. The gasoline actually used to clean things as it went through. You end up with a lot more repairs is all. So basically, the point is, carb is a scam. You should never have to smog your car again. It is not helping anything, nor will it help anything. Your brakes, this is what California probably will be heading towards, is you have to have carb-approved brake pads, which I'm sure will be enormously expensive and absolutely pointless. They claim they're dangerous somehow. Show me the science, please. I still won't even believe it then, because we've been dealing with brakes for several hundred years, or not several hundred years, actually. It's probably just been since 1880, something like that, maybe 1900 something. But well over 100 years we've had brakes. The only time they were ever dangerous was when they're very, very hot they'll burn you. Or when they were made out of asbestos, which in America we don't do that anymore. You might find them still in Cuba, but that's probably the only place you'll ever find it. Um, so that's our California smog update. No, it's not done yet, actually. There's one more thing. They have been talking recently about, because they haven't officially called off smog tests, but they have been talking about making a optional sort of thing where you can pay an extra amount and not have to smog your car this year. Uh, that just kind of proves that it's a scam. Uh, if I can just pay to not smog my car, what about the environment? That's my cash is not going to help the environment. So obviously it's a scam. Uh, and now it's really funny actually because what car guys do, I've never done this. I'm 100% honesty there. I've never actually done this. I've worked for companies who did do this. Um, uh, but anyway, you can find the right smog guy who will charge you $500 to smog your car. He doesn't have to look at the car, he doesn't have to see it, he just needs your VIN number, and you pass smog. Very much illegal. I believe it's even a felony. Um, and the California government has decided that they're going to do the same. So they'd call us felons for doing that, and they're just going to do it on their own? Yeah, that's okay. I know where we stand now. I know where we stand now. Yep. And that moves us into the next segment here, which not full segment, but just the next one down the line. More politic talk. The Short Act and the Hearing Protection Act have both been added to the Big Beautiful Bill. A recap on the Big Beautiful Bill. Simply put, you have a big bill. It's going to cost a lot. But if it doesn't pass, then we're going to be right up here with our bill that year. So I know like Rand Paul wants more cuts, and I agree with him. I love cutting budgets, especially for the government. I love cutting budgets. And I love Rand Paul. He's a really, really intelligent guy. He thinks through everything. And he was kind of the only niggle. There was one other guy, I can't remember who he was. He was slightly less important. I don't want to say less important, but Rand Paul was really the big opposition for us for get that bill passed. And he recently just kind of said like, I'm more on the yes than the no side, basically. Really, he was just looking for a couple more little cuts to the budget, which actually these Short Act and Hearing Protection Act will be sort of cuts to the budget, but it's the opposite direction. We're cutting the tax. They are taxes. The NFA, the National Firearms Association? That's not right. Act. That's what it is. The National Firearms Act puts a $200 tax on, well, $200 tax and an extra background check, as well as puts your name on a list, on a registration list. And those are all pretty bad things if you're an American and you appreciate what America is kind of made of. That's freedom. Now, a lot of people say, whoa, I don't want that. That's scary, guns. Ay. Let me explain this to you. The drug war. Did it work? We said no more drugs. No more drugs in this country. I think we've probably got more now than ever. So clearly that didn't work. So same thing with guns. That's not going to work. There's also just the general safety thing, whatever. In general, my safety and the safety of those around me will change 0% whether I personally own a short-barreled rifle, shotgun, or own a suppressor. Uh, I am a law-abiding citizen, and I won't not be that anytime soon. I'm not going to change and start being a criminal all of a sudden for some reason. However, the criminals are going to continue being criminals. And they already have illegal guns. They already have illegal suppressors. So, what is the NFA doing other than simply stopping US citizens from getting them? And back in like 1943 or 53 or something, I can't remember exactly when, but whenever the NFA was enacted, it was enacted as a tax. You could find videos of this, of them actually. No, you can't find videos, I don't think. It wasn't on video, but you can find the transcripts. Um, and it explicitly states that they, in the moment they're saying, we are making this a tax to prevent people from accessing this. You have to have the proof that you paid the tax on you so that if you don't, we can arrest you. And that was for like Al Capone and that gang sort of stuff, trying to prevent them because they knew they're criminals. They're not going to get their permits. So as soon as we see them with one of these items, then we can arrest them immediately. So it really was just enacted to shut down gang stuff, which I'm all for shutting down gang stuff, but that's not the right way to do it. So what can we do about that? Well, we can do a few things. I want to say, I guess for both the carb stuff and for this, I do have a few YouTubers that I like to watch for a lot of this information. For the gun sort of stuff, Langley Outdoors is a terrific channel. The guy who produces it is a wonderful guy, very intelligent, on top of his game. You can find him on X at Braden LOA, I believe it is. Cool stuff going on there, and he's really helping the gun community fight for our rights right now. And one of those things is he's encouraging all of his viewers to be calling their senators right now because the big beautiful bill passed the House. It's in the Senate, waiting for Trump's table. As soon as it gets out of the Senate, in California, well, in the country, no, sorry. Let me go back here. Langley Outdoors, Braden LOA on X, great guy. For my carb information, TK's Garage has some great information on at least the CRAs. He is not a Californian, so he doesn't know 100% about what's going on in California, although he's still in contact with a lot of Californians. So eventually he's going to have exactly the information we need. And then we have Reform California. Reform California is kind of a general, let's reform California. He's again, a very intelligent guy. He is a lawmaker of some sort. I can't remember exactly what he is. But he's in the government. He's on the front lines. He's got a great YouTube channel to kind of keep everybody up to date with all the crazy crap that's going on in this state. Another one for carb. I got one more for carb. He is a Californian, I believe. Okay, I'm not 100% on that, but I'm almost positive he is a Californian. It's Scotty's Hobbies. Just a great guy. Again, great information. A little bit closer to California. He's a little bit more pessimistic on it, which I am obviously not pessimistic. But we could all use a little bit of reality in our lives. So he's another really good source. And now we're moving on a little bit. So pertaining to the Short Act and the Hearing Protection Act, there is also a excuse me. There is also a provision that will push those nationwide. Essentially, it will say, well, if it's unconstitutional for one state, isn't it unconstitutional for them all? So those are the kind of the three things we're looking at. Now, in California, no matter what we do, we basically have no power over this. Our senators are not going to listen to us, but that doesn't stop me from trying, and it shouldn't stop you from trying as well. In California, our senators are Adam Schiff, yeah, Mr. Shifty Shift. Boy, I had to look at some pictures of him today. He was just like, above his name and number information. Like, I don't even like seeing pictures of him. Freaking, I can't even do his face. I don't know. It's creepy stuff. Truly creepy. Anyway, Adam Schiff's phone number is 202-224-3841. Call him up, say, hey, I want the big, beautiful, well, maybe specify you're a Californian. I don't know, whatever. I always say, I'm Dan Brigantino from California. I get a little more specific on my location, whatever. Not important. But tell them you're a Californian. You want the big, beautiful bill to pass. You want the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act to pass, as well as the provisions making them nationwide to pass. Call Adam Shifty Shift up, give him that message, and then also, you may have never heard of this guy before last week. I know I had never heard of him. Well, I probably had. He was probably on the ballot or whatever. I didn't vote for him. But last week he was on video with some funky stuff. We'll get into that in a second. But he is Alex Padilla. Now, even when I saw these videos come out, it didn't register. I thought he was just kind of a nobody in politics, whatever. But no, he's a California senator. Senators, remember, each state gets two. The House, what is it? I'm blanking. 400 That's not right. 435? That doesn't sound right. That feels off to me. But there's 435 seats, and then depending on the population, those seats get broken out into percentages per state. But Senate, you have two. A little easier to have to call 25, however many House reps California has. So Alex Padilla, his phone number is 202-224-3553. And just tell them the same thing. Hey, Californian, I want the big, beautiful bill to pass. I want the Hearing Protection Act, the Short Act, and the provisions making those both nationwide. Just let them know. And then if I can figure out how to stitch a video in here, I do want to show you a little bit about who Alex Padilla is, just from this video last week. I'm going to show you just a clip of it, of the beginning. So he, to preface, he goes into a federal building in California to talk about the riots going on. Somebody else is talking about the riots, and they say something that he disagrees with. And so he just, in the middle of everything, starts blurting out, rah, rah, rah. And then the FBI agents that are surrounding him keep saying, like, they're like, hey, stop. You got to stop. You got to stop. You're interrupting. And then he continues. So they go, okay, if you don't stop, we're going to take you out of this room. We're going to move you. And he doesn't stop. He doesn't leave. So they force him out of the room. He's whining and hollering and crying, oh, boo-hoo. And then I really want you to pay close attention to the very end of this clip. If you've like watched any sort of cop videos where, cops tackling somebody, you'll see this where he kind of cocks his hips at an angle and then sticks one of his knees out. And that posture is, it's purely just to prevent them from taking full control over your body, basically. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but FBI agents, federal agents, are telling you to leave a federal building. You don't get to say shit. You have to leave. Simple as that. You're in a federal building. You're not a federal agent. Even if you were a federal agent, they'd still have jurisdiction to push you out of the room. You're lucky nothing worse happened. They could have very well thrown punches, but they knew they were on camera. So anywho, he gets tackled, and then a couple days later, he has this big speech where he gets teary-eyed, and he says, they brought me to my knees, and they put me face down on the ground. Yeah, what do you think's going to happen when you get arrested? That if you resist, that's how it goes. And boy, you resisted a hell of a lot longer than I thought they would have let you. If it were me in that room, if I, Dan Brigantino, just walked in with exactly the same life I've lived right now, like no government, nothing, no World Wide Web attention, nothing like that. Like I'm just a nobody. I walk in and start doing that thing. Oh boy, I'd have black eyes coming out of there. Anyway, he's a clown. I'll show you a little of that first clip that I mentioned and a little bit of that second clip.
And sir, hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your...
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put them behind my back.
All right. Cool.
The briefing was scheduled at the federal building in West Los Angeles. While waiting for my scheduled briefing with General Guillot, I learned that Homeland Security Secretary Noam was holding a press conference literally just down the hall. And that press conference was causing my briefing to be delayed. The thought occurred to me that, well, maybe I could attend this press conference and listen in. Just listen. I didn't just get up and go. I asked and was escorted by the National Guardsman and the FBI agent. National Guardsman and the FBI agent who served as my escorts and brought me into that press briefing room stood by, silent, knowing full well who I was. You've seen the video. I was pushed and pulled, struggled to maintain my balance. I was forced to the ground. First on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained? Not once did they tell me why.
Boy, it's just sad. It's really, really sad. He is a United States senator, and in control of one of the biggest states, or well, the biggest state population-wise. Anyway, call your senators, Adam Schiff, Alex Padilla. You could just Google it. Their numbers are right there. They are supposed to be accessible because that's how a republic works. The people have to talk to... the people have to talk to the higher... I don't like pointing that way. They are not the higher-ups like that. They are the other guys, I'll suppose I'd say. So anyway, give them a call. And our last bit of politic is the Iran situation. It's wild. There's 4 days worth of news packed into every day. You know, since January 20th, we've lived like a full year of news cycle. It's very wild, but a lot of fun. So this whole Iran thing, a lot of people are all up in arms about it, and I understand. I'm not very happy about it myself, honestly. But a little overview of what's going on. Trump recently just said in an interview, I can't remember who it was with or anything, but he said he's been saying this for about 20 years. I wasn't paying attention to Trump 20 years ago. Only in that I one time got an Xbox 360 with the logo that was made, had like green circles all over it. And it was made on The Apprentice. And my mom thought that was awesome. And we talked about it once. That's kind of all I knew about Trump, really, other than the, golden buildings, all that sort of stuff. Everybody knows who Trump was before 2016. Unless you're a Democrat, then you probably forgot. But anyway, so he said he's been saying it for about 20 years. I definitely remember him saying it during his first run for president. Obviously, I don't remember 20 years ago him saying it, but I do remember him saying it in 2015. And that was that he does not want Iran to have a nuke. And then he was saying it again in his last term, or his last election cycle. Now, something about this whole Iran thing that everybody's, a lot of people are upset with is that he said he would start no new wars. He said he was the guy who started no new wars. He didn't want anything to do with that. Unfortunately, times changed. He said that in February of 2020, I believe. He was saying, I didn't start any new wars. I wouldn't have started. Let me do that a little bit. I didn't start any new wars. I didn't want to start any new wars. Not under my administration. But he said that, like I said, in like February of 2020. 4 years happened. He also stated back then, like, I'd have that war in Ukraine wrapped up in 24 hours, less than 24 hours. Everybody who knows me knows I'd do it. And obviously, the war in Ukraine is still going on. The problem that people don't realize is that he said that 4 years before he had any power whatsoever. Obviously, things have changed. Obviously, it's not like day one where he could have walked in and gone, whoa, hold yourself. We're living in a whole different world from 4 years ago, 4.5-ish now. So all that to say, his promise to not start any new wars really can't stand. He was really talking about if he had taken over 2020. He would have been able to end that. Well, they wouldn't have started, first off, but he also would have ended them if they did. That might have been more like March 2020. But regardless. So he has been saying that he does not want Iran to have a nuke. And who can blame him? We don't need another North Korea. We really don't. Frankly, we don't need another, like, Pakistan. They're not really our friends either, and they have nukes as well. Not many people know this, but Pakistan hid Saddam Hussein for like 10 years or something. Maybe it was less than that. Maybe it was 5 years or 3 years. Regardless, hiding him at all from us was not a very nice thing to do. So that's the real background. And then this is what happened here. So Trump gave Iran 60 days to come to the table and negotiate. They did not for those 60 days. So on the 61st day, he handed the keys over to Netanyahu, whose name I think is appropriate, the Yahoo part. He is a bit of a Yahoo. So Trump basically gave him the go-ahead to do some bad stuff to Iran and get them to the table. So they did. It was very precise attacks that they led, which kind of proves that they are shooting pretty precisely in Palestine and that the Hamas is using Palestinians for human shields, which is very, very hard to just understand how somebody could do that. Use their own citizens as human shields, but glossing over that, we'll talk about that another day. Netanyahu does a bunch of precise strikes, wipes out a bunch of the nuclear infrastructure, takes out a bunch of the higher-ups in the government. And then one of the things I thought was wild was while a newscaster was speaking live to the airwaves, whatever, a missile hit that building, and it's clear. You can see it. I encourage you to go look it up. There's no violent anything in it. Just a big explosion is all. Listen to what the lady was saying. She was saying, and I can't remember what it was. I should have written it down, but I didn't. But it was something pretty, not like, ooh, death to them all or whatever. But it was like, we are the best, we are the only good ones, and all that sort of stuff. It was an interesting concept, something to talk about, whatever. So after that attack from Israel on Iran, there's been lots of back and forth with drone attacks and things like that. But Trump then basically said, like, hey, I gave you guys 60 days. You didn't negotiate with me. And now everybody who could have negotiated is dead. So figure yourselves out. And we await your unconditional surrender. He said, we are not looking for a ceasefire. A ceasefire is like when everything's kind of even, and it's like, okay, let's just hold off for a minute here. Um, that's not what Trump wants, because we are not even. He wants an unconditional surrender and nothing else. That is all that will do for him, and that is all that will do truly for the American people, I think. That's what we deserve. That's what we should get. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of scary stuff that goes on in the background, like Israel, the Netanyahu. Most people are convinced, and I'm pretty well convinced as well, that he just wants but he wants a regime change in Iran. There is a decent option for that. Back in '75, I believe, the old I can't remember what his title was, whatever, his position, anything like that. I can't even remember his name. But anyway, there was a leader, and then his grandson is technically the Prince of Iran, basically. Iran, whatever the hell. So we could set this other prince up, but we're looking at basically like an external revolution, which doesn't make sense. A regime change like this works fairly well sometimes when it comes from within, like the United States, France, whatever. There's tons of other countries who have had their own revolutions, which is just a regime change. They're very violent, and they don't always end up good. But more often than a forced regime change by an external source, they do succeed. So take, Iraq, Vietnam, Cambodia, all those countries that the United States has gone into and tried a regime change, and it doesn't work out so well. Very easy for us to do, to get started, I guess. Not so easy for us to finish. So I kind of think this is just going to be a shock and awe kind of thing. If they don't come to the table, Trump will do something super extreme that forces them to the table. Shock and awe, like I said. I'm not talking about like dropping a nuke or anything like that. I'm talking about just more precise strikes and bigger precise strikes. Maybe try to take out their entire Air Force and their Navy if they have I'm sure they have a Navy. I have no idea. But whatever boats they got and planes, if America can take all that down, like that's a pretty big blow. They've got hardly anything else. They've now just got their foot soldiers. And artillery and all that stuff. Anyway, that's kind of what I would think might happen. But here's the real deal. Just like the tariffs, if anybody says that they know what Trump is doing, they're lying to you. They're lying straight to your face. If they think they know, maybe they're not lying. They're just idiots. Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Trump doesn't know what his next move is. The way a man like Trump works is that he makes a decision that is kind of the best way to go about something, and then he looks at all the different options. Because if I decide to, for instance, tell my neighbor who is building something that's going to damage my house, if I tell him, you can't do that anymore, he has 1,001 different ways to respond. So I can't have a plan as in me tell him you can't do this. I'm planning on his reply being this way so that my reply could be that way so that he could reply with this and I could reply with that. That doesn't work in reality. That works like on a board game and in a video game. But the way reality works is he does one thing. The person he does it to has an infinite number of reactions that they could use. And it totally depends on hundreds of thousands of different circumstances. So basically, Trump is being incredibly smart by not making a decision on what he's going to do, because it totally depends. Basically, he's saying, Iran, the ball's in your court. Whatever you do next will dictate how I react. Whatever you choose to do will dictate what I do next. He's giving them the option. Really, if you want to look into it, it's basically, hey, come to the table today. Give me everything I want. You walk away scot-free. Basically, all I want is for you to not have a nuke. That's it. Or you could continue what you're doing, ignore what I say, and suffer the consequences. Yeah, that's about it. That's my piece for Politic today, and my update, and my Frank rant. Ish. We're going a little bit longer. I really didn't expect this to go very long. Let me try to wrap this up under the hour mark. Really fun stuff for our final segment, the comment section. We did get a comment last week. We got one comment. Let's back up a second. We had 25 views as well as one comment and 5 subscribers. I'm pretty sure like 10 of those views were me. And I think I only told like 4 people about the show. So there's got to be at least like 10 views that are not my friends, family, or me. And there's probably at least 1 subscriber who isn't my friends or family. Whoever you are, I actually don't know how to look to see like who is the subscriber. I just can see the number. I'll figure that out maybe. But thank you guys so much for subscribing. That helps me out enormously. The more subscribers, the more comments, the more likes I can get, the more visible I will be. That means I can perhaps monetize this someday, get some ads on here, which I know are going to be super annoying, but I'll set it up as best I can so you could fast forward through them all and all that. I also have a little bit of a plan for some ads. Actually, I'll tell you that later. I'll tell you that next week. We don't have time. Probably about 15 views, 5 subscribers, and 1 comment. That's pretty freaking cool. I wasn't expecting anything at all. But I'm glad it happened. So our 1 comment, I wanted to give a shout out to Z-Man Can TV. That is Z-Man, that's capital Z-M-A-N, Can, capital C-A-N, TV, capitalized TV. Z-Man Can TV. His channel looked pretty cool. He had some like Call of Duty clips, RDR2, Red Dead Redemption, and then there was this one really cool thing he did. It was like a generic scary movie intro or something, or like a trailer kind of thing. Just really cool. It looks like he kind of did it on his own, but it's pretty good quality and looks awesome. I'd love to see the movie attached to it, although I'm not very much of a scary movie guy. But anywho. So Z-Man Can TV's comment was, what made you... Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Oh, there we go. What made you grow a mustache? And in that fashion, hope this vid gets attention. Again, thank you. I think I thanked you in the comment there, but thank you, Z-Man Can TV. Super cool of you to be my first commenter. And to answer your question, my mustache. Kind of a long story. The way I ended up with a mustache in the first place was I had never grown any sort of facial hair. Like, I never let it grow out more than like 4 or 5 days. And I was 27, I believe, and I finally was like, why not see how it grows? So I grew a full beard, and it looked like I was from that part of the world right up there, North Africa or Middle East. It wasn't the greatest look. A little thin in this area, a lot thicker down here. I wasn't a big fan of it. Well-groomed, it might have looked fine, but I'm not a well-groomed kind of guy. I prefer to just let it go. The hair I trimmed in 2014. I shaved it all off and then just never touched it again. I haven't had a haircut since July 19th, 2014. And that's just kind of the way I like to roll. So this one is a little bit different. I do kind of groom it ish. But basically, what happened is, and fellas understand this, when you grow a beard, you shave it off in bits because you want to see like all the goofy things you could do. So I can't remember what I did. I'm sure I did like a goatee, and then maybe I even did the Fu Manchu kind of thing, and then I trimmed it to, let me see if I can angle it. So I trimmed it to about like a regular mustache length, and at that point, I looked in the mirror and I just couldn't stop laughing. I went into the other room to show my fiance, and she couldn't stop laughing either. So it just kind of stuck. I'll try to. I don't take a lot of pictures of myself, but on vacation, every once in a while I do. Like, oh, where you at? And I'll go, oh, here, look at that in the background, whatever, something like that. So I believe I have a picture of my full beard, which I will show you here. I hope you enjoyed. Then my little mustache. I should have a picture from a trip I did to Italy, and that will be here. Hope you like that one. That's kind of the goofy, just made me laugh style. And then I have always, I don't know if it was like Kung Pao, the movie, if you've ever seen that movie. It was a great movie. Or maybe it was like Kill Bill or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but the Fu Manchu always stuck out to me. The too long and then the one right in the middle. I'll never do the one right in the middle. It's just not my style. But that look stuck out to me. So I kind of always wanted that, and so I grew that, and it ended up being like a full inch or more lower than my chin. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. My lady hated it, so it had to go. So I slowly trimmed it up to here, and this is really actually where I wanted it the whole time. So it used to grow out of my skin down here, but now it's trimmed. So if I could show you, it's just the size of a regular mustache. It's just extra long. So that's kind of the story. Now I look at it and I just, every time I see myself in the mirror, I can't stop and smile, or I can't not smile, whatever. So I just keep it. Eventually, there is an occasion that I will have to shave it entirely. Coming up in the probably next year, sometime in 2026. I won't tell you why or what that event is, but you'll know when the time comes. And I'll answer you then. But anyway, that's why I have a mustache. That's where it's going. I will regrow it as quickly as humanly possible after I have to shave it off. But I don't know. This might have taken a year. I don't know. I trim it too much to really know how long it is. Also, I don't like how it swoops out at the bottom. My intention is to have it straight, but whatever. I let it do its thing. I don't care. And that is it for the comment section, and that wraps up our show today. Just over an hour. Sorry. I apologize to make you sit for that long and listen to me ramble on. But I hope it can at least entertain you a little bit, kill some time in your day. I know I loved listening to podcasts and all that stuff when I was working, like as a full-time mechanic and all that. Just lovely. And now I drive 2 hours a day at minimum. So I love all that stuff for the drive, because, watching YouTube videos and whatnot is not the greatest idea. But if there's a channel like mine here where it's basically just me talking, you don't really have to look at anything. except for the pictures I showed there. And the videos I showed of Alex Padilla as well, being a goofball. Goofball is too fun and soft for him. Being a which is going to be talked about next week. That's our other fun word. Our super fun fact coming up. But we'll get to that later. Don't get ahead of yourselves. I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to bleep that out, actually. You won't even hear it. But it'll make sense next week. Wow, I don't think I swore a single time, aside from when I was talking about the word douchebag. So only a few bleeps this week. Anyway, that's it for the show. I hope you guys had a great week. I hope you have a great weekend up ahead of you. Have a beautiful time. Remember, everything on this show is satire and the points don't matter. God bless you, and we'll see you next Friday. Take care.